Oh, Johnny.
How you doing?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just okay?
Meh.
Is that Final Fantasy getting to you?
We'll talk about it.
Oh, I know we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. You sound lackluster. I worry.
All three of the games I played this week were bad.
So you're feeling the weight of it now?
Not really. It was kind of... I'm not even mad. It was kind of freeing bad, where it's just like, well, I can write this off completely. It wasn't like even that kind of bad where it's like upsetting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there's some. I find the games that annoy me the most is when you see like
the potential.
Yeah, and you just wonder how like somebody could have had such a good idea and then screwed it up so much.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. It was basically like, yep, I'm never gonna think about this again. Just scrub it from my consciousness. It's over. Did you play any video games?
I did actually. I played a few video games.
Cool.
Yeah, they were all right. They were some more than others, some less than others. I'm just kidding. They were all the same. No, not really. They were different. I also watched a movie.
Was it anything I would know of?
Yeah.
Some of your indie French cinema?
Well, I mean, if you've heard of this little movie called The Hobbit.
Oh, The Hobbit sucked ass dicks.
I'm not happy that they're splitting it up.
I know. The Hobbit's like one of my favorite books.
I was like, that's where you're ending? That is like the least natural break I've ever seen in my life. Yeah,
it's a pretty... I don't want to be like super negative about it, I guess. I'm being like exaggerative. It's just a pretty naked money move, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, we'll probably have to see the other movies before we can fully decide. Which I'm kind of curious. I'm like, what are they going to call the other two movies?
Well, there's The Desolation of Smaug, and then there's the third one that's full of bullshit they made up, so...
Is that what the second movie is going to call the Desolation of Smaug?
I think that's...
Sorry, wait. The Desolation of Smaug.
Smaug. I'm pretty sure that's what they're calling it.
That's what they're calling it?
Yep. And then the third one's just going to be based on... it's just bullshit. Like, they're bringing Legolas back, even though it contradicts all kinds of stuff. Uh-huh. They're giving him a love interest. It's like, it's basically fan fiction.
Yep.
So, it had nothing to do with The Hobbit.
I assume so. I thought that they were getting like a lot of their material out of the Silmarillion or something.
Well, they're not. That's not the stuff I've heard. They're not publicizing that. That's not the headline.
That's not
news.
The cover story.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that coincidental? In the middle of there, I couldn't decide whether I was going to go with coincidental or coinky-dink, but then I was like, it didn't sound right.
The whole breaking movies into two thing is like the equivalent of the DLC shenanigans that the gaming industry has now.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the worst part is both of them are actually not bad ideas on paper. Like, I remember when I first heard about DLC, I was like, oh, that's awesome. They can add new shit to games? Like, cool. And then they just proceeded to drive it into the ground.
See, that was the thing that, like, I was a little bit, I felt wary when they were like, oh, DLC, because, for a long period of time before DLC became an option, we did get expansion packs.
Mm-hmm.
For many games on PC, where you'd actually like go to the store and you could buy like a brand new disc or a brand new CD that would install like all this new content on top of your other game. I mean, like, in fact, like some of my for example, Baldur's Gate 2, the end of the Baldur's Gate saga, which was the Throne of Baal, is like one of the, I feel personally, like one of the greatest endings to an RPG saga that video games has ever seen. And it was like, it did not come as part of Baldur's Gate 2. You had to like go to the store and buy a copy of Throne of Baal. So it was like, but I mean, you were going to the store and you were getting like full games and shit like that practically. Like you were getting full playing experiences. Like Homeworld Cataclysm was, while technically not really an expansion because it was a standalone product, it was like a $20 Homeworld game again. And it was just like, yeah, an expansion pack, I guess. And then when someone was like DLC, I'm like, that sounds suspiciously like an expansion pack. And then it was like horse armor.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, PC was farther ahead of that curve, but I think for console gamers at least, it was a more interesting and novel idea.
It was an exciting idea, absolutely, But I think it would be fair to say that many publishers have mismanaged the potential.
Yeah. Same thing with like episodic game. We probably talked about this, but it's like only Telltale has even come close to leveraging that format.
Yeah, pretty much. And yet people still keep trying their hands at it.
I mean, there's no reason why anyone else couldn't do it, right?
I know, it's not like there's some sort of secret arcane technology that Telltale has in like a dimension.
To, yeah.
It's like, it's not like half their offices exist in a dimension between worlds that manages to bridge the gap from like having a complete product to, something slightly smaller and more manageable. They exist in the real world as people who have ideas. Just, not stupid ones.
Yeah, basically, it's I don't know. It comes off as kind of arrogant. Just be like, stop sucking so bad. But that's really kind of what it comes down to.
It really is. I mean, this isn't like a Goodwill Hunting case where somebody has this like unsolvable fucking problem of how to make episodic gaming or DLC work properly for the industry. And it's not like some savant who cleans the floors, wanders in at night, and is just like, yes, I think I've solved the problem. Don't be such a dick. The solutions are there. They are all around you. We are covered in them. It is a world akin to midichlorians of solutions. They're everywhere. You just have to employ them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to piss some people off and bring midichlorians into it, so...
I'm not so invested in Star Wars that bothers me, but I guess I can see why. I think some people will fundamentally misunderstand midichlorians. It's not that they cause the Force. It's just that they are attracted to it in such a way that measuring them essentially measures your Force potential. You know what I'm saying? People think it's like midichlorians cause the Force, and therefore it demystified it. But if you actually listen to the dialogue, that's not what he said.
It was poorly explained, though. I think we can both agree on that.
I mean, as a writer, I would have just kept it mysterious and mystical. Yeah, but yeah.
If I was a writer, I would have made the Star Wars prequels shot-to-shot adaptations of M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water.
And that's why you shoot laser guns for a living, apparently.
Pew!
I've been thinking about that all week because at the end of the last episode, you said something about having a laser gun at work, and then I cut you off so you wouldn't explain it.
And I will maintain, I will refuse to explain it to you, Austin, as the mystery is more awesome than the truth could ever possibly be.
Exactly.
So something funny happened to me this week.
Funny like haha, or funny like weird?
Funny strange.
Okay.
I don't know. I may have mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I was I got put on for jury selection.
That's fun.
Well, like a week and a half ago, I get an email from them, and they're like, "Oh, it's delayed." And I was like, "All right, when's it delayed to?" And they were like, "Tuesday, the 5th of November." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll see you then." And then today, I get an email from them that's like, "Yeah, that jury selection thing, it's gone." Doesn't exist anymore. It isn't here. You don't come. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I'm wondering if they Googled me.
And it was like the fucking the marshmallow anal question came up.
I don't know, man. It seemed kind of weird. It seemed pretty strange that because they got to me through email, right? They got to me through email, and that's only because that I confirmed my sign up on the website. Because many times people just mail things in, and you didn't even have to put your email address in. But they sent me an email today, very specifically, being like, "Don't come to the courthouse tomorrow."
Maybe you were jury tampered. Maybe it was like the mob got a hold of your email address and was like, "Don't show up if you know what's good for you." No.
I mean, because the domain that it came from was like a government domain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Because it would be different if it was like, Bo28 at yahoo.com. Hey, yo, bitch, don't even think about coming to the courthouse tomorrow. Just be like the king and shit. Because I live in Canada, and when prosecution is often referred to as the crown.
That's fucking awesome.
It is pretty awesome. It's pretty badass when you be like, ask someone, oh, what happened? Be like, the crown got me. Or you can be like an agent of the crown. Like that's pretty badass. I'm reading a book right now called A Man Called Intrepid, which is about the guy who basically like invented the intelligence game as we know it today. Like subterfuge, like shadow diplomacy, and like and it's badass. And the dude that they're talking about, this intrepid guy who was like, like the right-hand man of fucking like Winston Churchill, was a Canadian. He was this guy named Sir William Stevenson. Holy shit, he was a badass. They had all these like secret training facilities up in Canada, and like, this Canadian was fucking managing the British security coordination and like straight up like flipping off J. Edgar Hoover, and just like it was crazy. It's a very interesting book. But yeah, whenever they killed Nazi agents in America, I'm like, because this isn't even the part where the United States has officially entered the war yet, but they're really concerned about this thing they call the fifth column, which is about basically, citizens or people who appear to be citizens of a country not yet in the conflict that are having like, there's some nasty kind of spy shit going on in there. So they're concerned about the fifth column inside the United States, because at this point in time, Roosevelt he's like committed to the war. He's like, yeah, let's fuck these bitches up. But the American public is all kind of like, we don't want to be dragged into a war. Do you remember those days, America, where you were worried about being dragged into a war?
Wait, is that your American accent? Can you do that again?
We don't want to be dragged into a war.
Is that how we sound to you?
Some of you, but not necessarily all of you. Those are just the people who didn't want to be dragged into World War II, which I think is really particularly funny because it was the prevailing attitude at the time. But like now, fucking 60, 70 years later, everybody's like, we saved your ass in World War II. And it's like, A, you weren't even there. B, the Russians saved our ass in World War II.
I love taking credit for things that happened decades before I was born.
Yeah, me too. Did you know I invented the wheel and bread? And also, I am entirely responsible for shingles.
The disease? The terrible skin disease?
The terrible skin disease. I didn't say that everything I had done was wonderful and brilliant and benefited humanity, but goddammit, I'll take credit where credit's due.
Oh, Johnny. Did I ever tell you about when I was on jury duty?
No.
Well, it's a long story. So, Florida has this program for juvenile delinquents, for when you get arrested, and so you don't get like on your permanent record, you can do jury duty.
Is this leading to a story where you were arrested, Austin? Because please tell me more.
I've been arrested a couple times.
What was the particular charge on this occasion, if you're comfortable discussing it?
I don't know if I should. I think my record's been like expunged because I went through all the programs and stuff.
Well, how old were you?
14.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that there's like a statute of limitations on having a record as a minor, and after like I think it's like 3 or 4 years as a minor, your record goes woo.
Actually, it was funny. I remember on an earlier episode, I was telling like a funny story or something, and someone's like, "Man, Austin, you should write an autobiography or something." And I was thinking they already kind of made a movie out of my life. Have you ever seen 8 Mile?
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with it.
It's like that, but just replace rap music with writing.
I didn't want to see it because the main character's white, and I was like, whatever.
It's like I listened to a lot of Eminem when I was younger because we had like pretty identical family situations, like never met your father, mom's a drug addict, like being a petty criminal for no reason, and then kind of turn your life around and start doing
something productive with your time.
Yeah, pretty much. So
being
that was
a contributing member of society,
basically
learning to shave. Dressing like a man.
Well, I don't know. I don't think
Not
I
being
ever handled that
afraid
part.
to cry at a chick flick.
There's only one movie that's ever made me cry. Did I tell this story? I have so many stories.
Well, first of all, okay, what movie made you cry?
The only movie that's ever made me cry was Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Okay.
It's the part where Wilson falls off the raft.
All right. Okay.
on the way off the island, because I loved Wilson so much. I saw that when it first came out. I was like 10, and I like cried my eyes out. It's the only movie that's ever made me cry.
So when you were 14 and you were convicted of electoral fraud,
that's the story now.
That's the story now. You opted instead to do jury duty.
Yeah.
Now, would this have been for another juvenile case? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because it would be a court of your peers.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, yeah, like, everyone thinks, like, jury duty, at least the way I've always seen it in popular culture, it's supposed to be, like, some boring, terrible thing, but it's kind of awesome.
I was kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, you just get to sit around and judge other people.
I fucking love judging people.
And
I love shaking my head in disgust and going, oh, God.
In hushed and conspiratorial tones. And it was great because everyone else on the jury was, like, basically a delinquent as well. So we're all just sitting around. It's like, psh, this guy's a small time. It's like, man, I'm way harder than this guy. Like, it was basically just like the deliberation. It was just like a dick-waving meeting. It was brilliant.
I would have made it very difficult for everybody to decide on food. If you get, like, in the room and it's like, okay, what does everybody feel like? I'd be like, bring me a bowl of perfume, upon which a single lily pad floats, wherein a small patty of chili fried grasshoppers adorn
See, Johnny, if you started
a non-bun.
If you started that shit in my neighborhood, you'd have been stabbed halfway through that sentence.
Well, I mean, somebody would have gone after me with a knife, certainly. That doesn't mean that I would have been stabbed. Somebody would have tried to stab me. That's why the Kung Fu, Austin, so I can talk like that and not get stabbed.
How long did it take you to figure out that you needed those lessons?
Probably about the fourth or fifth time I got stabbed.
Have you ever been stabbed?
No, I can't say I have. Wait, can I? No. I'm pretty sure I would remember it with a lot more clarity if I had actually been stabbed.
Yeah, it's a memorable experience.
Stabbings, you're probably not gonna forget.
Oh man. See,
I've been pretty, like, of course, like, pretty badly injured though during the course of my life. Like, concussions and, like, I once snapped both the bones, like, clean break, both the bones in my left forearm. We're talking like my arm was, like, twisted like 90 degrees. The bones were separated from one another. It was gross.
How'd you even manage that? Did you meet the Mangler from Stephen King's The Mangler?
No, I did not meet the Mangler from Stephen King's The Mangler. I did, however, have a rather straightforward demonstration of the power of gravity.
Did you fall off of something?
I may have.
I fell off my house and landed on my head once. I don't think I had any permanent jello.
I haven't had any permanent jello either. My jello has been impermanent.
Head injury jokes.
It's okay if you've been there.
The Chicago Bears are playing right now, so you're pretty lucky that I'm talking to you and not blowing this off.
For the Chicago Bears?
Yeah.
What's the score?
It's starting in like 8 minutes,
okay,
so it's 0-0 right now.
Playing right now.
No, we're probably gonna lose. We don't have our starting quarterback. You don't follow football, but did you hear about this thing with the Miami Dolphins?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, well,
I know that there's a team called the Miami Dolphins.
One of their players got suspended for, like, bullying another player. Apparently, like, left a racist voicemail on his, like, machine and, like, bullied him into paying for, like, a trip for the other players. Like, that the guy didn't get to go on. It's interesting. Football is like high school.
Strangely enough, that never really happened in my high school.
Did you guys have high school football teams in Canada?
We had rugby. They do exist, high school football teams in Canada, but my school, the high school that I attended was actually brand new insofar as that when I entered my first year, I think you in the States call it freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
In Canada, in British Columbia more particularly, we call it grade 8. When I started grade 8 at this school, very first year of high school, very first year that this high school had seen. So, and I had just moved to town, too. That was a shit year. New kid at school, new school, first year of high school.
Yeah, I did that my first year, and then I transferred to a different school where I knew everybody, because that sucked.
I didn't really get that option, because everybody I knew was back in Ontario.
See, Ontario, I know that's a place, but to me that could be, like, down the road from the other place you said. Like,
do you know where Detroit is?
Yeah.
It's up the street from Detroit.
Okay, but you have to realize the other Canadian place you said, British Columbia, I don't know where that is either.
Do you know where Seattle is?
Yeah.
It's just up the street from Seattle.
Oh, okay. So from Detroit to Seattle is very far.
Quite.
But the Canadian equivalent to that is not readily in my mind for availability.
There's a lot of flat land in between. There's a Chihuahua in there. There's an Manitoba.
You just made that up.
And then there's some mountains. And then, poof, you're in British Columbia. If you're going east to west. If you're doing it the other way around, reverse that order, and then you're in Toronto, who is having a very interesting time with its mayor right now.
Oh, yeah, the guy who smokes crack and then called a radio station to say that he didn't smoke crack or something?
Well, that was like months ago. Everybody, like some gawker or, some guy had been like, hey, I'm selling a video of the mayor of Toronto smoking crack. And, like, one of the guys at Gawker and a couple of local celebrity or local journalists saw it, the video, and then the guy disappeared and he wasn't selling it anymore. Well, like, just the other week, the fucking Toronto Police Department is like, the Toronto Police Department has recently come upon a certain video. And it's like, yeah, they found the video of the mayor of Toronto smoking crack. Who then replied that he has no reason to step down from office. Because, whatever.
Well, I mean, you guys are pretty forgiving up there. It'll blow over, right?
As a society, I'd like to think that we are a little bit forgiving. Like we're a little bit more open-minded. But there is something to be said for electing a public official and not being aware of his anti or pro-crack policies. I think that could be considered a decisive factor.
At least he didn't text pictures of his junk to anyone yet, right?
That we know of.
Because apparently that's the deal breaker.
I don't think he can find his junk, actually, because I don't know if you've had a look at this guy.
Oh, God, that's a low blow. Blow.
Speaking of football, so I'm just going to Rob Ford throwing football. I'm going to show you a quick YouTube video here, Austin. So and then you tell me if that making a joke about whether or not he can find his genitals is a low blow, okay? This is
and then once more in slow motion. Brilliant.
it's
he Mark Sanchez to that shit.
I think that at that point in time, you pretty much, you give up any right that you have to not be ridiculed for your girth.
Oh man.
I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing maybe if you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm portly. What of it? But then to be portly and try to play at a game that requires athleticism, such as football, and that happening to you, I know. So good luck, Toronto.
It's too bad none of our listeners care about anything we just said. It was all sports and politics.
By gum, by cracky, Austin. As educators of young minds in this world, we have to make them learn to care.
I really don't like to think of us as educators of anyone.
That is a scary thought.
Listen carefully. There will be a test afterward.
I just shudder to think what the answer key for that test looks like.
Hint, just answer C for everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another touching and empathetic episode of Grief Counseling with Coach. Yes, Grief Counseling with Coach, the weekly podcast where I, your host Johnny Maloney, and my co-host Austin Yorsky serve as proxy between those of you looking for advice at some of the toughest times in your life and our anonymous expert who provides all of the wisdom and clarity you need to get through some of the toughest times in your life. Now, regular listeners know that Coach, our anonymous advice giver, has been in professional sports now for nigh on 3 decades and has had to deal with a lot of people in high-pressure situations facing really difficult times, but still being required to dig deep and provide some of the most stirring and best performances that their careers need to offer. So we're going to read our first letter to Dear Coach today from Gretchen. This reads, Dear Coach, my name is Gretchen. I'm a single mother, and my young son, Nathan, who is only 5 years old, has just experienced death for the first time in his life. Nathan's small pet Dalmatian very recently was injured in a car accident and was unable to recover from his wounds, and I find that Nathan is intractable with grief. I'm trying to get some kind of sensible way to speak to him about the nature of death without frightening my son into such a stupor that he's afraid to get out of bed in the morning. What should I do? From Gretchen. And Coach's reply here is, Dear Gretchen, suck it up. Tell Nathan to walk it off. He's a big boy. Tell him to put his big pants on and go about his business. Okay, Austin, what do you think of that?
Am I supposed to make fun of someone who, like, obviously someone who's fictional that you just made up, but that is going through some like serious emotional issues here? Is that my job? Is that what you're asking me to do?
No, I'm like, do you want to maybe expand a little bit? Shall we talk a little bit more in depth about how Nathan should walk it off?
just rub some dirt in it. It'll be fine.
It's conceivable. Do you think that maybe referring to him as a sissy boy could possibly help?
Oh my God, Johnny. See, this is why I wish Leon was here.
See, I want to know, is this kid Nathan some kind of wimp, like whatever, like his stupid dog died? That's not the kind of attitude that gets you the Cy Young trophy.
Are you not a dog person, Johnny?
Oh, no, I love dogs. Dogs are wonderful. I just, like Coach says, walk it off.
Are you trying to make me picture Coach from Left 4 Dead 2, or is that just a coincidence?
No, not specifically Left 4 Dead. I get the feeling that Left 4 Dead Coach 2 would actually be a real, like, Coach would hug it out in Left 4 Dead 2. It'd be like big fatherly arms, that deep voice, and he'd be like, what? That's crazy! Give me a hug. And then it would be like a really warm beanbag chair hug.
Johnny.
Suck it up, Austin.
Where did this idea come from?
I have no idea. I honestly can't remember. It occurred to me like first thing this morning.
To make fun of someone's grief?
No. Not very specifically. I'm more addressing the masculine stereotype that they are incapable of addressing grief in any other way except for get over it, pussy.
I never understood. People are super judgmental about the way that people grieve. Have you noticed that?
Oh,
it's like,
yeah. Speaking as someone who, a few years ago, my father passed away, right? We were very close. I loved my dad dearly. And seeing the myriad of ways that people attempted to deal with my grief was kind of fascinating, actually. I mean, I wasn't thinking of it at the time as being fascinated. At the time, I was like, boo-hoo, my dad's dead. But in retrospect, it's kind of weird how a lot of people were so uncomfortable about it that all they could do with the situation was basically flip it and make it about themselves.
Yeah. Actually, to bring this to video games, if I may, there's a whole subplot in Persona 4 where a character's sister dies, and it's like, you're this kid's friend, and people are like, he doesn't like show any outward emotions about it, and people are like super judgmental about it. It's like an entire thing. It's like an exploration of this concept. It's like some people expect you to behave in certain ways, like either be really outwardly showing your emotions or to be strong and like work through it. And it's like no matter how you do it, someone's gonna think you're doing it wrong. And it's like,
yeah.
First of all, it's not any of your fucking business. And even if it was, like, I don't know.
That was one of the weirdest things about the weirdest things about the situation was that people who, seeing that I was sad, decided that I shouldn't be sad. So I should probably go see a doctor and get some pills. And I like some of these people, I had to explain to them slowly that something very depressing had just happened to me, and it was natural that it should make me sad.
I mean, I can understand if like someone who you're close to is like super upset and you want to comfort them and make them feel better, and maybe that's just like your inelegant way of expressing that is telling them to get pills, like you just want them to feel better. But even then, I don't know if that's the best.
And then there was like this is like sharing time here. Wow, sharing time. A few months after my father passed away, my girlfriend at the time broke up with me. And the reason she gave, this is, are you ready to like get your hate on for someone and be like, holy fuck, this is the most despicable thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I'm pretty excited.
Are you ready for this? Okay, the reason she gave is that she was like, I can see that you're unhappy, and I need happiness in my life. And I can't have that happiness and be with you.
Well, I mean, that doesn't sound like someone you would want to be with anyway,
no.
If that's how they're going to react to that situation.
No,
so I guess that was the best for everyone, really.
Absolutely. I mean, like, you know, she's the only person in the entire course of my life that I wish that I could, like, completely forget. Like, if you could stick a needle in my brain and pull that out, I'd be like, yes, take it away. I don't need it. Because that was, like, that moment was the lowest faith that I've ever had in the human race in my entire life. Where it was like, I need happiness, and you're not it. Gotta go. Bye. Hope you do well with this depression thing.
Yeah, that's a very special kind of selfishness, but it's better that it jettisoned you from that instead of taking it any farther and then finding out that was happening.
Oh, it could have happened at a way worse time. I fully acknowledge that, and I realize that it's for the best because I'm in a wonderful place right now.
We should just do the feelings cast this week. Fuck video games. Like, it's not like the whole new generation of hardware is about to hit. We have feels to share.
Sure, I will sing Sailing by Christopher Cross. Sailing takes me away where I'm going. Damn it.
Oh my god.
Where's my acoustic guitar?
So this is an olive branch to everyone who's upset that we were missing the banter from the last couple episodes. I don't know if you noticed, Johnny, but there was like none in like 30 seconds of free music talk the last couple of times.
That was I remember that. I think it was last episode or the episode before. You didn't even, there was like no banter. You're just like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, because Leon was here. We had to fucking hustle.
That's usually how it goes.
So this week you get half an hour of solid nonsense.
Yeah, just
nothing
that makes any sense whatsoever. Before we talk about the games.
Not that talk is going to make any more sense necessarily.
Yeah, you're probably only going to get a fraction of time, like maybe 3/10 or something, 1/5 if we're lucky. No, not 1/5 if we're lucky, 2/5 if we're lucky.
But we're really just restoring the balance of the last couple weeks, which were very game-heavy. And I apologize, because I know a lot of people don't really like when we talk about video games.
Yeah,
so.
Not a lot of people play them. If only David Cage could come and save this industry from obscurity.
Oh my gosh. I'm really super interested in what Cage is making next. Like, whether or not he takes the next step into actual...
I hope it's a souffle. Like, I honestly hope to God that David Cage comes to the next E3 with, like, a souffle recipe and being like, I have figured out the next level of games. It is a fluffy egg top.
Yeah. That seems something more like Jonathan Blow. We'll be like, we need to think outside of video games to make video games. Like,
maybe. I don't know.
Cage would just film someone making a souffle and call it a game.
He wouldn't, no. He would film someone, like, making 3 souffles, and then he would somehow find a way to, like, put them all out of order. And you'd be like watching some 3 people make 3 souffles all at the same time, but not in the right order or something like that. And then at the end, it would be like, I don't know, Nibiru, Planet X descends from the sky and takes the souffles or some shit like that. And they can't seem to leave those supernatural elements alone. So even if it was the plainest cooking show I've ever seen, at the end it would be like, fuck, space aliens with psychic mind powers.
See, that's why I liked Beyond, because they established the supernatural right out of the gate, and so none of that came out of left field.
I don't know why we would consider it left field anymore, though. I mean, that's pretty much David Cage's M.O. I mean, do you think that's perhaps it, where you sat down to play a David Cage game, and it was, like, supernatural, and you're like, yeah, I figured. Are you just numb to it?
Well, it's not like David Cage has the deepest oeuvre. He has made 4 games. Like, is that enough to even establish patterns?
Way more than me.
Oh, Johnny, I forgot that your body of work is the standard to which we hold all developers.
I'm glad you agree with me.
You're like, that Tim Schafer guy is pretty good, but when you compare Maniac Mansion and Psychonauts to Johnny's back catalog...
Oh, man, there's no comparison. Zero.
It was me and Robert were talking about... No, it was me and Taylor. We're talking about actually making a game, like learning RPG Maker and like actually sitting down and writing a game. And it's like, we don't have time for that, but we totally want to.
There's a lot of people who basically, who operate in games journalism that basically say that it's a natural progression, that anybody who enjoys playing games at some point in time is going to sit down and go, I have to make a game.
I don't think that's uncommon. There's that, people who can do and who can't teach. And I think similar to critics, like, Roger Ebert wrote some scripts and stuff. Like, everyone, you wouldn't be criticizing the medium if you weren't deeply invested in it. And I think participating is really a logical next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. Like learning ins and outs, mechanics, concepts, what works and what doesn't, and then trying to apply that knowledge to a situation.
Yeah. If I could go back and learn coding instead of one of my other skills, perhaps, then that would be different. It's just not enough time now.
Well, it may be one of those things where you don't discover it until quite late in life. It could very well be. I consider the possibility all the time of going back to school when I'm older, and there may come a point in time where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to learn how to make games.
If I hit the lotto and I can just do it in my free time, but I don't know. I can't imagine working a 9 to 5 and trying to learn a trade and build a creative project all at once.
No, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you work a 9 to 5 and learn a trade or something like that, but there may come a time where you find yourself a little more financially secure than you imagine yourself being right now, and say, you know what, I think I'm going to go back to school.
My retirement plan is having a stroke in my mid-40s and dying. I have no illusions that I'll ever reach anything near that.
That's a shame, Austin, because that means that when you get to your 40s and you suddenly discover that you're actually in much better shape than you thought you were, you're going to kind of be at a loss. It happened to me when I turned 30. When I turned 30, I was like, what the fuck now?
Now what?
Good God, I've only planned this far. And now every day is a surprise, and my bed is extremely comfy.
I just like how that was just completely unrelated.
No, they're totally related. I wake up in the morning and I go, God, another day that I can make the most of it. I am going back to sleep.
You're much more optimistic than I am. I'm every morning I wake up and I'm just grateful I wasn't eaten by alligators.
Do you have a comfortable bed?
No.
You see, that's your first problem. You get yourself a comfortable bed and you wake up in the morning and you're like, fuck, this is the best place ever. I'm never leaving. And then you go back to sleep again.
Want to talk about video games, Johnny?
It kind of disturbs me, actually, that I spend most of my life in pursuit of a particular kind of unconsciousness, actually, now that I think about it. But why don't we go ahead and talk about some video games and the news relating thereto.
Heretofore,
therewithin, forthwith, we shall discuss Hero.
What?
Well, you have already mentioned that we're on the cusp of great technological commercial availability. It's not really breakthroughs because I've seen the specs to both of them. They're pretty cool, but they're not breakthroughs.
if I can cut you off for a second there, as a PC gamer, are you just totally unimpressed with the next generation of consoles? Or you're just like, well, yeah, that was nice 2 years ago.
Kinda, yeah.
That's hilarious.
I mean, like I'm sorry, but I've been riding the solid state drive for a few years now. I've got myself an obscene graphics card. Truth be told, like utterly and absolutely obscene, and all the like online connectivity that they're boasting about and whatnot. I'm sort of like, the only thing that really looks like anywhere close to being new is the Kinect, but I've yet to see any evidence that it actually works. If it works, if Kinect 2.0 works, I will be impressed. I will. But that's it. I mean, I love the architecture of the PS4, I love what they're trying to do with the way they put the system together and the way they're trying to, like, get it to work properly. Again, I mean, you and I both think Mark Cherney is, like, the bomb diggity. But, yeah, just looking at, like, the tech screens themselves, I was a little underwhelmed. So, in any case, though, the news dropped a couple of days ago that Call of Duty Ghosts is not going to be running on the Xbox One as well as maybe fans hoped it would. What I'm referring to is that the PlayStation 4 version of Ghosts is going to run at 1080 pixels resolution native, whereas the Xbox One version of Ghosts is actually going to be a 720 resolution, upscaled to broadcast at 1080. So, surprise, surprise, this means that there are comparison videos all over YouTube right now about how ass the Xbox version looks and how amazing the PlayStation 4 version looks. All of this preceded an interview that Eurogamer had with Mark Rubin. Mark Rubin, who's an executive producer at Infinity Ward, executive producer of Call of Duty Ghosts as well, went on to explain why this is actually the case. And Rubin, I think, actually reveals some unpleasant truths about the Xbox One and the way that the system architecture is constructed. And I'm actually kind of amazed that it never really occurred to me before, what with all the talk they had about all of the cloud computing, behind the scenes, Kinect plugged in, everything going on at once system that they've been touting the Xbox as being. Well, as it turns out, the Xbox, basically a large portion of its internal memory is constantly reserved for system functions that developers are incapable of accessing.
Yeah. Was it 10% of the memory is always being held back for Kinect stuff?
I don't know if it was 10%. I know that 10% is moved towards the operating system always running, which isn't that weird because, I mean, every game's got an operating system. Like that's a thing. You require constantly memory being accessed to that or accessed by the OS. But I do know that they said, yeah, that the Kinect and also like the voiceover as well. Like their voiceover architecture has changed as well. So there's like more memory being hogged up by these systems that they now have operating over top of everything else. Whereas previously, I guess it would have been that like voiceover would have been software based or, who knows, right? That it would have been kind of like along the side. But now it seems that there are going to be a bunch more processes that supersede actually playing games. Like just in case you want to open up Skype at any point in time and talk to a friend while turning on the football game while playing Call of Duty Ghosts. Because technology, why the fuck not?
Who would have thought that trying to do everything at once on your all-in-one machine means you wouldn't get the optimal performance for each individual thing?
Oh, you know what they say, jack of all trades, master of...
Halo.
No, sorry. That was going to be the loading time required for the end of that sentence.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you're going to be the Debbie Downer here. I think, should I take the position of trying to defend Xbox in this?
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Can you tell the difference between 720 and 1080 without being told which was which?
When it's in front of me, yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people can. I don't think this is going to matter too much to the average consumer. As long as it maintains a steady frame rate, I don't think this is any kind of serious death blow.
You may be right. I mean, that's the sensible thing, particularly considering that when people buy their Xbox One, when people buy their Microsoft Guitar Solo paint trumpet.
You're an asshole.
When they buy their Microsoft Guitar Solo paint trumpet, they're not going to have a PS4 running split screen on their big screen TV and eyeing one and then the other and one and then the other and being, I don't know, this paint trumpet doesn't look as good as this PS4 does. The 720 will probably do the job for most people because they're not going to have the comparison right there.
Yeah, and also in defense of this is something that Call of Duty Ghosts specifically is suffering from because they only got the next-gen development kits, so many months ago, so they didn't have that much time. Presumably, future Call of Duties will both be 1080p for both platforms, as will most third-party games.
Of course they
presumably.
will. Of course they will. I mean, what console generation can you point to and go, there? You know what was the crowning achievement of the graphical fidelity of this generation? The game that came out with the system.
No, obviously. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here because a lot of people are saying, well, Xbone's dead, PS4 is better, it's over. But I think this is just a curiosity. It's growing pains. And I mean, I've been the most vocal detractor of the Xbone since day one, I think. So this isn't any kind of, agenda of mine. I just wanted to pipe up here.
I think it's ridiculous to say that it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some kind of weird natural impulse that video game journalists and gamers have towards this concept of finality.
Yeah.
Where it's
absolutist. Everything has to be dead or the winner.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no room for AAA $60 games anymore. Everything's gone free to play. Everything's gone mobile. The greatest games are now made out of rocks. Pay $12 for this rock DLC. It's the best game ever. Game of the year.
Yeah. But I think at this point we can get a couple things from this. One is that the PlayStation 4 seems to be just unequivocally technologically better. Would you have any argument there?
Not at all. I think that even just looking at it on paper is pretty much clear, but to actually see this happening right now is just kind of pretty fucking obvious.
All right, and which, once again, that's not any kind of decisive victory because if you look at the history of console wars, quote unquote, the weakest system usually wins, pretty much always. So that's a interesting tidbit for you. Also, Call of Duty is kind of a huge, big deal. It's made Xbox.
Is it really?
It's a very big deal. Yeah.
Are you sure?
And
are we talking about the same Call of Duty here?
Microsoft treats it as kind of a de facto exclusive. It's not, but they pretend like it is. And if it runs better on PlayStation 4, do you think we see a shift to Sony's being the de facto kind of lead platform for it?
I feel inclined to say no.
Because it's too culturally ingrained, there's too much mind share for the Xbox Live community?
Well, I think that it's when you're talking about the Call of Duty fan base, and not to get tremendously reductive here, but I mean even Activision pretty much acknowledges it. I think a couple of weeks ago one of their executives came out and were like, yeah, people who play Call of Duty are not gamers. They're people who play Call of Duty.
Yeah, I think I saw that poll quote.
Yeah, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with him because so many people that self-identify to me as people who enjoy video games, not a lot of them are really big on Call of Duty. So what that kind of leads me to believe is that by pure habit alone, you're probably going to have the people who play Call of Duty who like rely on that online infrastructure and like clans and setting shit up and things like that, and have those like 3 games that they play over and over and over so they can call their friends fags online.
Madden, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
The holy bro trinity.
Yeah, I get the feeling that those guys are probably just going to look at the system that they have now, which I'm guessing, like, just going to throw all my psychic power into this one, is an Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably just get the next one up in that line.
Yeah, because those people don't follow tech news to begin with.
They're not going to go price shopping.
Well, that's the last thing I wanted to hit on, price. If we can say without any hesitation or skepticism that the PlayStation 4 is more powerful, does that put the $100 price gap in a different perspective or a sharper kind of perspective for anything?
I don't think that's necessarily the case, because I think that everybody at this point in time has sort of settled down that the reason why they're paying an extra $100 for the Pink Trumpet is because of that camera.
Yeah. So the $100 to play Just Dance 7?
Yeah.
And you just got to make your peace with that?
Yeah, and to say things to it like, Xbox, make me a sandwich. Which it will not do. I've tried. Lazy fucking Xbox.
Dude, if the Xbox could make you a sandwich, that might change things. That'd be pretty serious.
I'm not even sure I'd be a PC gamer anymore.
Speaking of PC gaming, did you want to? I mean, that's that story pretty wrapped up. I don't think there's a lot of ambiguity for our thoughts on these systems. I'm just waiting for them to fucking be out already.
Yeah, I want to see some blood get shed.
Did you want to move on to the next story, which happens to be in your area of expertise?
I suppose we could move on to the next story. Speaking of PC gaming, although really this is sort of like tangential to PC gaming at this point in time, because we have spoken in the past several times about Valve's plans to enter the console market with their Steam box and with other people's Steam boxes.
Steam boxi?
Steam boxies. But I mean, a lot of people, and we even conjectured on the podcast in the past, Austin, that if Valve came to the table and was like, Half-Life 3, Steam box exclusive, then that would, that would pretty much ensure some fucking sales.
Oh yeah, that would be the killer app the Steam OS needed to make a significant dent.
But Valve has come to the table and very straightforwardly laid it out that they will not be making exclusive games to Steam OS. Which then by proxy you can determine, you can deduce that there will be no Steam Machine or Steam Box exclusive games.
Which is pretty nuts. I mean, in a good way. Like, any other company would have said, fuck it, right? They would have just done it.
More or less, if you fucking know that if Electronic Arts decided that they were going to make their own, I don't know, like, bagel, that they'd be like, hey, sorry kids, but Madden 2014 is exclusive to this bagel.
We don't even have to conjecture there. We know that they pulled a bunch of shit from Valve's Steam service, put on Origin exclusively.
Yeah.
They have no compunctions about pulling those kind of punches. It's not really up for debate.
No, the evidence is there. And I mean,
but Steam, okay, they came out and said if we made things exclusive, it would be bad for customers. It'd be bad for the community, and that's the most important thing. And a lot of companies would say that, but actually doing something that backs that up is pretty awesome.
Yeah, they would say that, and then 3 months from now, they'd write in really small print into an end-user license agreement or something like that, I don't know, you owe them a big toe or something. And be like, oh yeah, it's not exclusive, but we'll take that toe now. I don't know why.
This fucking Activision is just building up a vault full of toes.
Maybe there's some kind of weird arcane toe spell.
You want a toe? I can get you a toe.
I know a guy.
Nail polish too, man. What time is it? I'm trying to do that the whole Big Lebowski scene.
But I gotta say though that, you know, like I can see people with MBAs and things like that being like, what a colossally stupid move. And I just know that as soon as the industry analysts speak up, as soon as they see this, they're gonna be like, oh, it's all over for the Steam box. Oh God, no, oh that's it, it's over. I have to say I'm not surprised.
But aren't those the same analysts who bitch and moan that Nintendo won't put their exclusive shit on mobile? So which way do these analysts want it? Is exclusivity important for a platform or not?
Whatever way gets them paid the most money.
Exactly. I mean, not to denigrate my own semi-profession here, but it seems like most of the people whose job it is to talk about video games want everything just the opposite of what it is.
Just because they have something to talk about. Exactly.
If you can't just write an article that says, I approve of the way everything is happening, that would be pretty boring.
Well, I think if anything that this is good news for everybody though. Like, yeah. It's good news for the customer. I think it's good news for Valve because, you know, even though they were the first on the scene, you can guarantee that if Steam was doing something wrong, people would fucking jump ship just as soon as they could. Like,
oh yeah, everyone's watching the throne. If they make the first wrong move, you bet knives come out. It's not even a question.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fucking like nasty ass fight in a dark alley with broken bottles, bricks, knives. Like it's as soon as there's a slip up, it's gonna be a bloodbath. It really is. But
I mean, there's already been minor slip-ups. There was the Left 4 Dead thing. There was this, did you hear about this Halloween Dota 2 thing?
Yeah. James seemed to think that I was flipping tables over this thing, to which I have to say to you, James, I don't really play MOBAs, so...
I think he was just being a dick. That's just the way James is.
Yeah, James is a bit of a dick, aren't you, James?
You're not listening. Fuck you.
Go to hell, James. That's for not listening to the podcast.
But yeah, Valve, I mean, they do make mistakes and people call them out violently, but things like this are why they engender such loyalty, is because they understand that the intangible relationship with fans that you can't really measure, you know, in your investor calls is actually pretty important. And when you have that kind of rapport and you have that kind of good faith with consumers, it pays in the end.
You know, there's such a determining line between a company maintaining a good relationship with their customer base and a company seeing how far they can get away with what before that seems to affect their good relationship. You know, like, I feel like there's a lot of companies, like, I feel like a lot of the slip-ups, again, you know, like, not that they're anybody's favorite, really, but I hate to keep picking on them, but Electronic Arts, what am I talking about? I love to pick on Electronic Arts. They have a real reactive relationship with their fan base, a really reactive one, where they make decisions that people tend not to like, and then as soon as that decision gets made to a point where it strains their relationship with the community, then they change it. They go back on it, and they go, well, let's see what we can do about fixing this. I feel like Valve's relationship with the community is about as proactive as you can possibly get.
Most corporations try to bleed people as dry as they can and then scale it back until the outrage dies down. Like, Valve starts friendly and kind of moves it as close to the line as they can, It's like the opposite direction there.
Yeah.
And it just makes you feel like they have your interests more at heart. Which, of course, they're a company. They want to make money. They don't actually, care about you personally.
They're not going to come to your house and burp you if you've got a bit of gas.
It's the illusion of caring about you personally, I guess.
It's not even necessarily an illusion, like there's something to be said for, because, I mean, this is something that, like, that the restaurant industry thrives on, and that is genuinely taking care of your clientele. And I'm not saying that, like, you walk into a restaurant, you sit down, and that waiter is smiling at you because you're their favorite person in the whole wide world. But, like, the actual experience of being there, you should be looked to, you should be accommodated if you have any special requests. If they know what they're doing, they will take care of you in every conceivable way possible.
Yeah, it's the hospitality industry.
Precisely. And I mean, if it works for restaurants, why shouldn't it work for, like, any other industry out there?
Yeah. I mean, when you go on Steam, it's a different feeling than when you go on Origin. Like, I feel welcome and, like, engaged on Steam. Like, it's like, oh, look at all these deals and stuff. And on Origin, and it's like, I want to be out of here as quickly as possible. I want to leave.
I think it's really funny. I think I bought Crysis 3 on an Origin sale like months and months and months and months ago, and I just haven't worked up the balls to log into it and play it yet.
Yeah. I feel like we're being really mean, but yeah, that's actually how I feel. So we need to get someone else on the podcast who has like the opposite views of us, because we've been agreeing way too much lately.
Austin, it's like those weird photos you see of people who spend too much time with their dogs and they start to look like their dogs. I get the feeling that even though we're sitting across the continent from one another, there's some weird kind of like lateral DNA exchange going on, which sounds like it might be gay, but is actually not.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't
you sexy bastard.
I just want to make it like absolutely clear, because people have been making some fan art of us in the past, that when I say that Austin and I might be having some lateral DNA exchange, you might actually want to look up. I'm sorry. I think the actual term is horizontal gene transfer.
Wasn't there was one fan art or something? It wasn't like one of us was in like fetish gear or something. It was like in a harness, because I think it was a full Leon related one.
That wasn't, yeah, but that wasn't like that was, I believe it was photoshopped. Yeah, it's lateral gene transfer or lateral DNA transfer or horizontal gene transfer, where basically the more time that you spend in someone's, like, I mean, I'm dumbing it down here, but the more time that you spend with someone, there's actually a little bit of genetic exchange that goes on.
That's why we need to bring Sean on here, and then we can just scream at him for an hour. That'll be cathartic.
Yeah.
I was going to say that would give us another perspective, but we wouldn't let him get a word in edgewise, so it wouldn't matter.
I'm also, just so we're clear on this one here, horizontal gene transfer refers to the transfer of genes between organisms in a manner other than traditional reproduction.
So non-traditional reproduction still counts?
I don't want to see that fan art. That's all I'm saying.
Please send that fan art to Sean at blisterthumbs.net. Oh, my Lord. Okay, do you want to talk about what you've been playing?
Pandora's box is open. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. I can talk about what I've been playing.
You don't have to. It doesn't sound like you want to. No. Are you reluctant?
No. I mean, it's like it's fine. I got to play a couple of things this week. One of them, we're going to touch on an old one because it's taking me forever and a day to play through this game. But I played some more Resident Evil 6 this week.
Oh my God, Johnny, we still have to let's play it. There's no other way this is going to end.
The good news is that I finally finished Leon's campaign. Yes, that's how long it took me to finish Leon's campaign.
I'm trying to remember how That was the one where the final boss is like a human size, then he grows to like Godzilla sized and back repeatedly over the course of the fight, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Fuck that game.
I just keep telling you, Austin. I don't.
Just dick it in the eye socket.
I don't know what games you've been playing this whole time, but I didn't see anything out of character for Resident Evil in that whole segment. I was like, yep, this is Resident Evil, all right.
It still sucks. I don't care if it's in character or not. It sucks.
No, that's fine. I just keep seeing the game. I keep seeing the game that's like that ridiculous and stupid. And
do you remember that boss fight with the slimy naked woman?
Yep.
Come on, Johnny.
I'm just trying to say, I honestly don't see any.
What would you give it on the BT scale?
Oh,
Leon's campaign.
Leon's campaign, don't get me wrong, this is not blowing my mind or anything like that. I'd probably wind up giving Resident Evil 6 like a 5 or a 6 or something like that. Like, it's serviceable, and I'm kind of amused by it, but beyond that, it doesn't wow me or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. It's not a great game by any means.
I wonder how bad would it have to get before everyone would just stop.
Everyone would just stop.
Just stop. Just refuse. Resident Evil 5 is Capcom's best-selling game of all time.
I didn't mind 5. I thought it was a serviceable action title.
That's not good enough. Serviceable should not be pulling down millions and millions of units.
I absolutely agree, but, we are talking about Capcom.
There have been plenty of games Capcom that has released that have sold nothing. Ace Attorney can't even get in boxes.
I wouldn't know anything about Ace Attorney. I wouldn't know anything about it. That's out of my realm of understanding. Sir, that's not in my duchy.
They have the same publicity machine at their disposal, and it baffles me that Resident Evil remains as popular as it is, and Phoenix Wright can't even get into retail. The only thing I can think of is that there's some kind of weird.
I bet it's because Phoenix Wright probably doesn't cost anywhere near as much as Resident Evil costs.
Well, so they have to justify it with a marketing blitz. I was thinking there's got to be some kind of a crossover thing with the movie series has made the name so big, such a big draw that people just like, oh, Resident Evil, that's the thing, right?
Anybody who likes the movies obviously doesn't like the games.
I don't know. The movies and the games are rapidly becoming much more similar than when they started.
Yes, that much is true.
They're actually pretty faithful now. They started off, it was kind of sacrilege how different they were. But now they're all kind of the same dumb, vapid, explosion-y, mindless, gore-fest bullshit. So they've synergized their brand across multiple mediums.
That much is true. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. There's no way they can still be selling that many to people with taste. It has to be idiots who walk in off the street into the GameStop and see Resident Evil on the shelf and go, "That's a thing."
Or people like me who look at it and go, "That's probably ridiculous," and I'll bet a little hilarious.
There are plenty of ridiculous, hilarious things for you to spend your money on, Johnny. Why aren't you playing Deadly Premonition? You are playing Deadly Premonition, aren't you?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay, why are we still talking about Resident Evil?
Well, because I played Resident Evil, and I'm on Chris's campaign right now, and that guy, Jesus Christ, who modeled that dude's biceps? What man did they get to mocap that?
They just jammed a bunch of smoked ham into a suit.
They must have taped these huge pillows to his arms or something like that to just be there we go. Now that looks right.
I have to think that Chris is Capcom's commentary on American masculinity. This is how Westerners think that men should look, all macho and muscly, and there's no way that can be an earnest portrayal of a human being.
That is my general feeling about the whole Resident Evil series, though, is that I'm not quite sure that there's anything earnest about it. There's gotta be something.
It's actually like some kind of brilliant social commentary that's over our heads.
I don't know if that's the case exactly, but good grief, man. Like, there's something going on there. There's a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, or there's, like...
They need to turn it up then. There needs to be, like, they need to bring it to, like, a Suda 51 level.
They really do. They really do, you know? Like, they're still pulling as... If Resident Evil 6 were, like, stand-up comedians... If Resident Evil 6 was a stand-up comedian, it would be like the Andrew Dice Clay in the 1980s, where he's like, hey, yo, well, women, huh, what? Competing against, like, all these weird, pseudo-surrealistic anti-comedians that we have nowadays that do stand-up, like Aziz Ansari and, like, Zach Galifianakis. Guys that aren't actually funny, but, you know, go on stage and are funny because they're not funny. It's weird. But yeah, so I played that, and it's still a bit, you know,
ass. Is the word you're looking for ass?
I still maintain that I think your distaste for Resident Evil 6 comes on the fact that you thought that it was this good, when really this whole time it's actually only been this good. And, like, you are finally now seeing it for what it is, and you're like, this is wretched, what a horrible game, and I don't know, Austin. Did you hear your mind.
Apparently they're taking, I don't know if you remember this, they're taking cues from The Last of Us for Resident Evil 7.
Good luck.
So I don't know if our conjecture holds any water. I think they seriously think they're making a serious horror game.
Well, I mean, maybe now that they think they're making a serious horror game because The Last of Us came out and showed them what they had to compete with. But Resident Evil 6 smacks of everybody drinking the Kool-Aid. It smells like the only horror games that those people had played were horror games that they had made.
Actually, you know what? I had this thought a while ago, and I don't think I brought it up in the podcast. You know what Resident Evil 6 kind of reminds me of? Something I played much more recently is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Okay.
It's like we couldn't settle on the one thing we wanted to do. We didn't have an actual unique vision or anything to say. So let's make 3 separate campaigns, 3 separate characters to follow, and do each of them half-assed.
Yeah, that would be fair.
That's literally the premise of both. Like, it's uncanny. And my criticism of both games is pretty similar. It's like it took a pretty interesting formula that was kind of pioneering for its time and kind of went sideways with it and didn't do anything interesting, and it's like pretty lazily written and has pretty boring, generic third-person shooter gameplay. Like,
I gotta say, I am a little, you know, and I realize that I'm only, you know, about 4/5 of the way through the second campaign. I'm a little taken aback by the lack of traditional reveals, like Resident Evil style reveals.
Like, because the plot is just zombies and evil guy who is evil for no reason. Evil.
And I mean, each campaign basically retreads the same happenings.
Yeah, there's a certain thing where writers think it's really clever to have overlapping stories, but they don't realize that you want to get like Rashomon style perspective and not just see the same cutscene 3 times.
Yeah. So it does fail on that front, I think, pretty much absolutely, because there's no revelation offered in other people's paths so far.
No, I mean the entire plot is visible in the first hour of any given campaign.
Yeah, so. Yeah, pretty much.
I just wanted to point it out. I just wanted to point out the synchronicity between Grand Theft Auto 5 and Resident Evil 6. There, it's a little eerie, personally, as someone who's disappointed in both.
No, that's I think a pretty astute observation. So we'll move on. I also played some more Batman Arkham Origins this week. Got my Batman on. Punched some guys, grappled some grapplings. I still got nothing to say about it.
No new bugs or any.
No, well, actually, you know what? It was working perfectly. It was working perfectly, and then they patched it.
Yeah, that's what I heard, because they apologized for the patch.
And then that fucking destroyed everything. It's
They're gonna patch the patch.
They
soon.
already patched the patch. Actually, they have already patched the patch.
Are they gonna patch the patches patch?
I fucking hope so. It was so the first patch that they released, which I think was like Wednesday or something like that, or I don't know, fucking Tuesday or some shit like that. It was like suddenly I was flying. It was like you go to glide, and then he starts doing this fucking weird somersault, but in gliding mode, and he was gaining altitude. And I'm like, that's not right.
That sounds awesome. I would have just put Steam into offline mode and kept that version.
But then, it also prevented me from grappling into hidey-holes, like grappling into, air ducts and things like that. So I'd be in this room, and there'd be like an air duct up there, and I'm like, chigoo push, and he'd grab onto it and stay.
I can grapple your hidey-holes.
Please send all fan art to. So then they got patched again, and it was working again. So it's all Batman. It's like punching dudes. I gotta say, I kind of like the detective stuff that you do, the cases. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Austin, but you'll come across like crime scenes in the city, and you have to scan evidence and reconstruct crime scenes and look for evidence. You'll get there'll be a guy an investigative journalist who gets shot, and you show up at the scene and there's a dead body, and you have to scan the body, and then it's okay, and you look at the drag marks and be like, oh, okay, well, he was obviously on his own, he was moving from this ledge, which means that he was shot from this angle, and, he was probably, he was taking a picture, where's the camera, and you have to, reconstruct, the trajectory of the bullet, what would have happened to the body if the camera was in his hands, where would it go, and then you track the camera down, and then you get it, and it will lead you to, perps around Gotham that you go and then subsequently beat the holy shit out of, and then be like, why'd you do it? Grr, I don't have time for this. And then although it's I really like the detective stuff. I think that's kind of cool. I wish they were a little more complicated than they were. The one that you do for the plot where you show up at Black Mask's safe house, and it's there was a shooting there, and there's Black Mask is supposed to be dead, and you have to reconstruct this really weird, complicated scene. It was awesome. I loved it. But I'm a little further in the plot. I still feel like they're missing the point on Batman. That their Batman is hey, I've seen The Dark Knight Rises twice. I know my Batman. Because it's not. It's not that Batman, but they're making him a little bit like that. His first encounter with the Joker is a little needlessly hardcore, if you know what I mean. It's like a growl off.
Is it gritty?
Yeah, it's pretty gritty. But I'm still enjoying it, as a game, as something to play. So there's that. Still hate the upgrade system. The fact that they've made a mandatory path now instead of just picking what you want, because you get stuck to that one thing and you're like, oh fuck, I don't want to upgrade my batarangs. They're just not satisfying, Yeah,
that's basically what we've been saying for weeks, is that unless they purposefully torpedoed it, it would still be fun to play, but it's not a bold or I
don't even think it's a step up. It's sort of like a sidestep. It's like a lateral gene transfer of Batman.
It's just they're wasting time until Rocksteady makes the next real one.
Pretty much. Now, both of those aside, I got to experience something this week that so far has been reserved for only console gamers.
Was it deadly?
It was deadly, and I know that you had a premonition about it. How deadly it was. It was deadly premonition.
I'm trying to think what the original name for the game was, because that's the North American name for it. I'm looking it up.
Oh, wasn't it something like the Orchard Head Killer Murders or something like that?
The Orchard Head Killer Murders.
The raincoat, I don't know, stab you in the backings?
Red Seeds Profile.
Okay, Red Seeds Profile.
No, that's the original name of the game.
I thought it was raincoat stab in the backings too. This time it's personal electric boogaloo. To those not aware, Deadly Premonition, the director's cut, a little bit of a pun there, was greenlit on Steam several weeks ago. And it was just released last week. Well,
it's the closest thing to a David Lynch movie that video games has.
I don't think that that's necessarily true.
How far are you?
I'm not that far at all, actually.
Okay. Maybe give it some time?
Well, the thing is that it's like David Lynch's movies are of a very particular mood themselves. This is a little bit more like this is definitely like Twin Peaks. This is more like David Lynch television.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. It's a bit of a troubled release, though.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's a little buggy. And by a little buggy, I know that, like, who was it? Somebody at I think it was Rock, Paper, Shotgun couldn't even get to Chapter 2 or something like that, or Chapter 1, or, past the prologue or something along those lines. And it wasn't working for him. There's also the issue that it's capped at 720p.
So it's an Xbox One game?
It's an Xbox One. It's less than an Xbox One game, actually, considering that the Xbox 360 and the PS3 both were 720p capped. And I mean, okay, fine. We did talk about early how people sitting down in front of a game, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell. I can tell. I've been playing games in high def. They're, like, right in front of me. I get anti-aliasing. I get fucking, high dynamic range ambient occlusion. It's a thing. However, to the rescue, that badass motherfucker who patched up Dark Souls, who made the mod for Dark Souls to increase the resolution, just, stepped in. He was just like, boom, guess what? Resolution patch. So there's a resolution mod for Deadly Premonition. It's still in the alpha phase. It's still a little janky. It doesn't work that well, and it causes my game to freeze up whenever I try and drive the car. But I feel better having played it. I played about, maybe a little more than 3 hours. I feel like they made this game for me. I feel like somebody made this game for me. And I mean, absolutely, I agree with what you were saying about, the game. If the game is really tongue-in-cheek, it has to fucking get its shit together because, like Resident Evil, I mean. Because Deadly Premonition, I think, does it so well. Wow. There's a very particular mood to it that I've never seen in any other game. And the funny thing is that I expected the game to be a lot more Japanese than it actually is. I mean, it's undoubtedly Japanese. You could not sit down and play this game and imagine just for a second that some, bearded fuck in Oregon decided to make this game. It's so Japanese, right down to its core. But there are some weirdly Western elements to it.
Yeah, it feels to me like a Japanese team of people who are really into Western culture.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult to articulate kind of vibe, but it's very distinct. I can't think of anything else that's 100% like it. Like Kojima has like shades of it sometimes, but
I'm really enjoying it.
it's memorable.
It's extremely memorable. And some of the director's cut features are really weird. Like the suits that you can dress York up in are ostentatious, to say the least. Although this is kind of funny because there are a lot of fans of the game that have actually gone after me because I'm playing it with a mouse and keyboard. So like, why aren't you playing it with a fucking controller? And I'm like, well, actually, I do prefer playing games on my mouse and keyboard. I understand that, you know, like there are games that you prefer to play with a controller. Like I get that, like sports games. Yeah, I get that, playing on a controller. That's cool. Third-person hack-and-slash games, totally get that. That's understandable, you know. But, like, any game where I have to aim, I just, like, that, no. But, yeah, people are getting angry at me because I'm not playing it with a controller. And when I ask them why, they're like, well, don't you understand that, like, the janky controls are part of its charm? I'm like, no. No, they're really not. I mean, you're honestly going to sit there and tell me that you should play this game with a worse control option because the worse control option is part of its charm? It's plenty charming enough.
I don't know. I might disagree with you there in some capacity. Like, I actually said this about early Silent Hill, is that they're more effective because there's kind of the genuine scrambling nature to like encounters. It's like in Deadly Premonition when like one of those enemies attacks you or something. It's like, oh god, I can't aim to save my life because the controls suck. And it's like in real life, if you were being attacked by something, you wouldn't have like, you know, Marine Corps aim. I don't know. He's
an FBI agent.
He's a bumbling idiot.
We have to believe that he would at least have rudimentary like ballistics training.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's the right perspective. I'm saying there's an argument to be made for imperfect controls in a game.
I don't know. I feel when you make interfacing with your game a component of the difficulty, that doesn't make me feel good.
I've actually said this for a while, is that I don't think many games, or maybe any, have ever really captured how important and like weighty an experience it is to fire a gun. Like, I've played a lot of Call of Duty in my life, and it's so disconnected. It's so, I don't know, clean and precise, and it's just not like, if you just fire a handgun, it's like, holy shit, there was an explosion in my hand. It's like a serious, not at all perfect kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind games with shittier aim for untrained protagonists. You know, I know people were upset at The Last of Us, because if you don't put in any like upgrades into your aiming and whatnot, Joel isn't a very good shot at first. And some people said, oh, that it, you know, brought the shooter quality of it down. But I actually liked it. I preferred to play him like that. It just made it feel more desperate. It worked.
I don't see it as necessarily belonging here. I don't. You know, like, I mean, it occurs to me that they would probably want to make the game with the best controls that they could possibly think of while maintaining a certain attitude, but I cannot feel like giving up a certain amount of that control to like, like that's bad design philosophy. I don't like it. I'm a little weirded out though about some of the bugs in the game because apparently nobody's really sure as to whether or not the game is going to be fixed.
Well, I mean, who's publishing it? Isn't it like Rising Star or something?
Yeah, Rising Star is publishing it. Apparently the guy who did the Dark Souls patch is actually in communication with Rising Star Games.
Durante?
Yeah, what Durante I think is, yeah, you might be right. So yeah, they're they're talking to him, and I think there might be some kind of official integration of a high-res patch, which I think is kind of funny. But
it's lunacy that no one's hired him yet.
No kidding. But the apparently, like, I think it was Swery65 on his Twitter wrote, to all the fans of Deadly Premonition, as usual, the Steam version evaluation seems to be polarizing. Sorry, it seems to give some unsatisfied. I'm embarrassed that problem give you big disappointment. Anyway, thank you. Please enjoy. I love you all.
Yeah, I don't think patching the Steam version is high on his personal list of priorities right now.
Probably not. But
it sounds like something is out of his hands. Like, he signed the contracts like 2 years ago, and he's moved on. Like, he can't babysit the ports forever.
Yeah, more or less. So it's a little, and I mean, Deadly Premonition. Like, there's not a lot of news that's come through Rising Star Games. So it's just kind of like, you know. I mean, I like it that Durante's in contact with them, apparently, because I would really love to be able to drive the car and have high resolution. That would be great. But I am enjoying it so far. It's charming, janky controls or not. And I got to play one more game this week. Without a doubt, I think the crown jewel in the games that I played this week, and that was Typing of the Dead Overkill.
Yeah, which Sega should have been hyping far more than their other release of the past week, which we will get to.
Way more, because this game is fantastic.
I haven't even played it, and I love it, just from the screenshots I've seen.
It's ridiculous. Like, it is one of the funniest games that I have played in my life, I think. It's so funny. There's really nothing else I can say about it. Like, there is. I mean, it's a fucking typing game.
But they put it over a foul-mouthed old... Was it a Dreamcast shooter originally?
I don't know if this is actually the Dreamcast shooter or whatnot, but it's like, because I remember the House of the Dead games being like the wrong kind of cheesy, where it's like you have these two agents in suits that like show up in this town, and then there's like, you know, zombies everywhere, and then you shoot them. This is like a weird exploitation movie.
Yeah, the Overkill version. I think was that the Wii port of it.
I have to check. Maybe.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now.
You go right ahead. I'll wait.
Yeah. Overkill is the Wii version. So yeah, that's what you're playing. Is they put a typing game over that
over top of a Wii shooter.
Yeah, and the Overkill one, yeah, that was the one where it's actually like super. Self-aware of like how ridiculous it is, as opposed to the other ones, which were like arcade light gun stuff.
Yeah.
And they took themselves a little too seriously. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Overkill is the one. That one is pretty well received even for the time.
It's hilarious. Like it's really, really funny. Even just some of the words that it has you spell. Or sentences, as the case may be. It's the weirdest goddamn thing. But hilarious. I'm absolutely loving it. And apparently they're excuse me, apparently they're going to be putting like multiplayer in. So you'll be able to like, you know, play Typing of the Dead with people on the internet. And I'm just looking at the community hub here for some of the screenshots. We've got like thanks Obama, need a higher Metacritic, Better Call Saul. Oh god, what else? Quality control. Yeah, it's pretty insane. Like they're obviously, what does the fox say? Like, whoever localized this is has got a pretty good sense of humor. Forever Alone, Free Hugs.
Free hugs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else I have to say about it. It's the most fun I've had playing a typing game. It's insane.
Is there a lot of competition there? Are you a connoisseur of fine typing games?
You know, there was Mavis Beacon. There was Mario Teaches Typing.
Those are the two titans of the genre.
Yeah, those are definitely the two titans. There was the online one with the sharks. I don't remember that. It was like a Flash game. Can't remember what it was called. And of course, there was Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead.
What?
Yeah, don't you know that they made a typing game out of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead?
I can't tell if you're joking.
Yes, I'm joking, Austin.
Okay. You never know.
It was actually Atlas Shrugged. Okay, fine. There was no Ayn Rand.
I mean, I don't know what you want me to say to that, because either it's real and I never heard of it, or it's fake and you're wasting my time.
It's fake and I'm wasting your time. I confess. All right, fine. But, I mean, there's not much else to say about it. It's hilarious. It's fun. I mean, it's the most fun I've had playing a typing game. It really is. It's too much. Have a look at it. You know, it's a laugh. It's a total laugh. Now that we've gone from me playing like all these great, wonderful, and amazing, and charming, and strange games this week, Austin, let's delve a little deeper into your misery.
Where do you want to start? Because I played 3 games this week, and they're all bad in their own special ways.
Okay.
There's not really a theme.
I want you to represent each game as an animal with an illness, and then I will choose an animal with an illness. That will be the first one that we talk about.
Ah, Johnny, you make things way more difficult than they need to be.
I do, but that's my MO. I'm not changing it until I get a really bad head injury.
Okay. A llama with a head cold.
All right.
A zebra with AIDS.
Oh, boy.
And a two-toed sloth with dysentery.
I think we're going to take the two-toed sloth with dysentery.
I didn't actually think of games connected to those animals.
Okay, well, why don't you choose the game now that you think is best represented by a two-toed sloth with dysentery?
So, really slow and
slow and shitty.
Slow and shitty, that's Final Fantasy 13 too.
Oh, man. That was actually the one I was hoping for. Tell me, Austin, Final Fantasy 13-2, is it everything you dreamed it would be?
Oh, man. People who've been listening for the last couple of weeks will know that I've been trying to play it. And, I've been over the basics of it, how the story and characters are awful, but the gameplay is better than 13, and I like the monsters and the 3D modeling and even some of the music, as dissonant as it is, but I can't play it anymore. I'm fucking bored out of my skull. I tried a couple times to sit down and play it, and it's just the most dreary, tedious thing I've done. I mean, at least Superman 64 you could laugh at.
True.
Like, it's just a nothing. It's a vacuous hole of just cardboard, boring awfulness.
Really?
It's not even
that bad.
It's not even like aggressively bad. It's just like I'm just going through the motions, hearing people I don't care about saying stuff I don't want to listen to. Like,
so the game, like, I mean, because yeah, as you say, like Superman 64 was kind of like laughably bad.
Mm-hmm.
There are games out there that you can play that aren't necessarily classically good as we would consider games being good, but you can find redeeming qualities at least in being amused by them. But it sounds to me as though Final Fantasy 13-2 is just inspiring nothing but apathy in you.
Yeah, like if I was being like objective on like I guess like some kind of perfect scale, it would be like I don't know, like a 6 or something. Like it's beautiful and its battle system is actually an improvement over the last one. I just don't care. I just don't care about like a meteor could come down and kill everyone, and I wouldn't even notice. I'm just not involved. I don't want anyone to succeed. That's almost like worse criticism than like actually going in depth of all the different things that it's doing wrong. But like, it's just the most uninteresting thing.
No, I can understand that. There are some games that just don't inspire even like any response from you.
It feels like they set out to specifically address all the complaints people had with the original 13, like the linearity and the battle system and stuff like that being kind of just you can just tap auto battle to get through most of it. And they did address those, but it seems like that's all they did, and the rest of it is just going through the motions. Like, they didn't actually have a story they wanted to tell. So it's mostly just teleporting from small enclosed area to small enclosed area where characters just talk at each other about nothing between cutscenes.
Yeah.
And the story is just fucking gibberish. It's not even like that it's complicated. It's just gibberish. I almost expect it was translated with Babelfish. I know there's going to be someone out there who no, you don't understand. The time stream paradox contradictions with the magic artifacts of the... I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but don't you know the game gets better when you get to Grand Pulse?
Oh, man. Actually, here's the thing. It's actually given me a new appreciation for 13. For as linear and kind of underwhelming as it is in some ways, at least it had a story it wanted to tell.
Right.
You were on the run from the evil government, and you gotta escape, and then you get to Grand Pulse, and there's all these monsters, and they're huge, and it's like, oh, the scale, oh my gosh, everything's so pretty. It's like, at least I remember that. It left an impression.
But this one, not so much?
No, it's just boring.
It's the afterbirth of Final Fantasy 13?
I've played some bad games in my time at BT. I reviewed dozens and dozens of games. I've given scores everywhere from 1 to a 10. And even the ones were more interesting. They were worse. But it's I fucking hated Spirit Camera, The Cursed Memoir, and I fucking hated Wreck-It Ralph. But I don't hate Final Fantasy 13 too. It's just more boring than those ones.
You nothing it.
Yeah, I'm just so cold. And I've stuck through worse. I just don't want to play it anymore. Should I? I said on Twitter earlier that I was thinking about quitting it, and some people were like, no, you have to see how shitty it gets. And I'm like...
That does beg the question. You're not at the shitty bit yet?
No, apparently the ending is fucking terrible, and then it doesn't even end properly. They sold the actual ending as DLC.
Oh, I remember reading about that, yeah.
Fuck. Because if it really does get bad enough that I should know about it, then I guess I kind of gotta stick it out. I want to be informed in my dismissal.
Ride it all the way to the shitty end?
Yeah. The only thing that even slightly held my attention was how out of place the boss music is. Because you're walking around and it's J-pop, right? And then the boss battle music starts and it's death metal. It's really weird. It's la 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 friendship. I was like, what? It's really strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game, if anybody can put any kind of defense of it, it makes me want to finish it, I'd be open to that. But at this point, it's
do you really want that? Because I know a guy.
Fucking Sean.
Yeah.
I think he gave an 8 or a 9. How is he? How?
I don't know. His mental processes are beyond me.
But see, what makes him such a useful critic is I know how my tastes align with his, so whenever he recommends a game, I know to avoid it, which makes him much more useful as a barometer than other critics whose opinions I can't quite nail down.
There are some people who are valuable in that sense.
Mm-hmm. In some ways, he's perhaps one of the most reliable of video game reviewers, because he has terrible taste.
Yeah, pretty consistent.
Jeez.
I'm trying to find the cutoff point though, because he's pretty good with his nostalgia.
Is he?
Well, the games that he remembers as being good, I'm kind of like, okay, all right.
Maybe it's just a JRPG specific thing.
You think?
He just has a very questionable taste in that particular genre.
It's conceivable.
Okay. I don't know. If this wasn't my job, I would have given up on Final Fantasy as a brand. Like, I just wouldn't be interested. But it's such an important thing to so many people. I feel like I have to keep up with it just so I can not miss out on the conversation. Like, if someone's like, "What's your opinion on this?" and I think if I don't know, then I'm like not doing my job.
I used to feel like that.
Then you just stop giving a fuck.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
All right. So what's this zebra with AIDS?
The zebra with AIDS. No, the AIDS is it's got to be Sonic Lost World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the other Sega release that came out with Typing of the Dead Overkill. Geez, Sonic.
Oh, there's a new version of the Deadly Premonition. Oh, sorry.
Did you read my Sonic Lost World review, John?
I have not had a chance to. I've actually had a very, very hectic couple of weeks. I thought I was preparing for, jury selection, so I was like training a bunch of people to take over my job basically for a couple of days. Because I've been working there for over a year now, and I haven't really even legit sort of had a vacation. I've taken like a day off here, a day off there. I got really, really sick a number of times last year. I took a lot of sinus infections that were giving me fevers, and I couldn't breathe, and I was waking up in the middle of the night, and I wasn't sleeping, and like it was really, really awful. So I used a bunch of vacation days actually to cover up sickness. So they were like really worried that I was going to be away from work for 3 days because they've never had to have anybody cover my job for that long before. So yeah, I've had a busy past couple of weeks. I haven't had as much time to read up on my video game news as I normally enjoy doing. So no is the short answer. Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to come off like a Sonic hater, because I know Sonic has a huge fandom and they often feel like they're under attack, because I don't know how they have come to that conclusion. But I want to make it clear, I do like Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is one of my most beloved nostalgic games. I liked Sonic Adventure. I liked Generations. I liked a fair number of Sonic games. Lost World is just not good in a number of ways. First of all, it's on Wii U, the version I played. There's also a 3DS version, but the one that I reviewed just completely bollocksed all the touchscreen controls and stuff. None of it's necessary, and it's intrusive and unhelpful and just bad. It's like the poster child for how not to integrate touch stuff into your game. And Sonic doesn't need it. Never needed it. There's no reason that you have to stop and poke your screen in the middle of gameplay.
Yep.
It's bad. I will say that it looks super good. It's the prettiest Sonic game ever made, but that's not enough to carry it. It starts off like innocuous enough, like it's kind of like you think it's gonna be ripping off Super Mario Galaxy, and it kind of looks like that if you just look at from a distance, like screenshots and stuff, because it's all disconnected platforms floating in the void.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really play like it. Like, the camera isn't as good. It's just the level design is just not fun. It's weird how it's kind of hard to articulate the way that it breaks up the flow in unenjoyable ways. Like Sonic, you could say kind of just generally it's about speed. But there's a lot of instances where you're just kind of waiting on platforms to like rise and fall, or you're like bouncing on clouds super slow. and trying to like gauge where your shadow is so you can fall on the tiny little cloud platforms. It's like there's a lot of non-Sonic feeling stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like even it has the same problem as a lot of 3D Sonics, where it's like all the speed stuff is automated. Like you step on the speed boost panel, and then you can just put the controller down because the next 30 seconds it's just going to play itself.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The boss fights are all really super easy. Like the enemy drops down into the arena with you, and then you just mash on the homing attack button, and you'll just fucking stab them in the face to death with your body. I'm trying to... To me, the thing that summed it up the most was that to unlock later levels, you have to have a certain amount of like animals saved. You know how in the capsules, when you push the button at the top, the animals come out?
Yeah.
So essentially, the game punishes you by forcing you to go back and replay levels. And that to me is like, it just perfectly sums up everything, and that it uses its own level design as punishment.
That's always a sign that you're doing it wrong as a designer, and I wish that people would clue in on it a bit more, where they're like, oh, well, if you didn't do it right the first time, you've got to go back again. And it's like, no, you misunderstand why I'm playing this game. I'm doing it for fun.
Yeah, show me new and exciting stuff, or I'm going to go play a different game. You know?
Yeah.
I have no problem if your game is difficult or challenging. Like, if you want to be Dark Souls, be Dark Souls.
Totally.
But what people don't understand about what makes Dark Souls good is it's not that it's just that it's challenging. It's that it's rewarding in the way that it's designed. It's not like you beat a thing and it's like, go back and beat it again because I say so.
Yeah, you didn't beat it the way I wanted you to. Do it again.
Yeah, it's going to beat you and you're going to lose and you're going to have to do it again. But you'll have learned something. And then you can do it better. In Sonic, it's like, I did it right the first time, but now just go do it again.
Yeah, you didn't do it right enough.
It's not about learning or growing. It's not like I said, the best platformers on the market right now are things like Meat Boy, VVVV, Rayman, things where you die and you're just instantly back.
Yeah.
No loading time, no fucking around, no wasting my time. Always learning, always getting better, always challenging myself, new content, just fast, fun. It's just all of that. And Sonic's the opposite. You die 3 times, fuck you. Start the whole zone over again.
Yeah, punitive gameplay is a careful ground to tread these days, I find.
Yeah. I want to make the distinction. It's not about difficulty. Dark Souls, I'm going to use it again. It's a hard-ass game, but it doesn't make you redo shit you already did. It makes you redo shit you didn't do because you weren't good enough yet.
Yeah.
There's a difference. It's not that nuanced, but apparently people are having difficulty with it. Sonic Lost World is not bad because it's hard. It's bad because it's tedious, and it's not fun. As I said, I think it's in my review. At its best, it's simply boring. That's kind of, if there's a theme to the games I played. Like I said, the best thing about it is really the music and the graphics. It's a very pretty game to listen to and look at, but those are very surface,
Yeah.
It doesn't address any of the kind of core problems with it. And if you want to play a platformer, there are dozens of better examples, even on the Wii U, which is pretty strapped for games right now. There's the new Super Mario Brothers, there's new Luigi U, there's Rayman, Donkey Kong's coming out in a couple months. Like, you're gonna be fine. Don't throw your money away. I think Sega kind of knew it too, because it started off at $50 when most Wii U games retail for $60. So I think even they knew they weren't coming in at a full kind of retail value. It's pretty short too.
They didn't go full hedgehog.
I want to say that Sonic should just stop, but that's a little too extreme. Like, what? How can they retool it? What is so fundamentally difficult about making a Sonic the Hedgehog game that they can't get it right? Like, Generations was good, but a lot of it was just because it was a best-of collection of the only viable stages made throughout the years.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's kind of weird to compare Sonic against Mario in terms of the way that the games grow. Because a lot of Mario's platformers have grown in ways that are so like very obviously expansive. They take what makes like Mario such a like an interesting, fun, fanciful experience, and they expand on that. But there's a lot of Sonic games I found that got made that seem to change things just for the sake of changing things. Where they're like, okay, we need to make another Sonic game, only things have to be different than they were, so guns?
Oh yeah, like Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
And there was the one where he turned into a werehog.
Yeah, a werehog. Which
do you think they should have
doesn't make any goddamn sense at all, because werehog basically means man-hog.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah, if anything, he would have been like a were-human.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean that would still be werehog. It'd just be the other way around.
I know what you mean. I didn't know how to state it in a way that was more obvious. Do you think they should have just stuck with the 2D design? Like they did release a Sonic the Hedgehog episode 4 in 2 parts.
It's not even necessarily sticking with the 2D design. I don't think that's where they're losing their way. I think the problem is that they're losing their way in like it seems as though even they don't know what makes a good Sonic the Hedgehog game.
Is it possible that nothing does? Like the idea just doesn't have any more.
There's no more
capital.
Yeah, well, it's conceivable. When we think about what it was that made the Sonic the Hedgehog games good back in the day, it's that, they were paced in a way, there was a speed to it, there was an immediacy to it. It was pretty fanciful as well, like, the art design and the music.
Oh, the music's fucking still killer. Still one of the best soundtracks in gaming history, Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Yeah. But, it just, like, something happened. I remember playing Sonic Adventure for the first time when I first got my hands on a Dreamcast, and I was like, what is this?
Part of me feels like it's just Sonic Team, like just the group of people they have working on it either don't have the right like personnel, the right ideas, or that they're just kind of incompetent in some ways.
Yeah.
Like if they gave it to like Naughty Dog or something, like maybe someone like with serious fucking chops could pull it out, or maybe it's just there's nothing to do with it. You just kind of have a bare bones idea of fast hedgehog with attitude jumps and spins, like,
and just kind of work with that.
What is there really to do with that?
Yeah.
It's like all Nintendo had to work with was Italian guy jumps, and they just said fuck it, bee suit in space. Like they just weren't beholden to anything that you would have preconceived about it. They just went off in directions and said, what would be fun, and then just did the most fun thing they could think of.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, it's... Yeah, you know what? It might just be that they need a shake-up, to tell you the truth. It might just be that they need to, like, drop everything that they think they know about fucking Sonic or what everybody expects from a Sonic game or something, and then just go nuts. Just, like, not give a fuck at all.
I didn't want to hate this game, and I don't really hate it. I just didn't like it.
But you did, so...
Yeah. I just think it's flawed from just the ground up. I just think they either need an entirely new team or they need to stop thinking along current lines and just completely re-envision it all.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. After Generations, I had hope that it was back.
I guess you hoped too soon.
I don't think I was alone, though. I mean, everyone kind of saw the upward trajectory. Everyone said, Colors was a step in the right direction, and then Generations was better, and now this is where they were supposed to be at the very least, treading on Mario Galaxy's coattails.
Yeah.
They couldn't even manage that. I said in my review, they should have just ripped it off. Just been a shameless Mario Galaxy clone. Like, that would have been pretty sweet.
Probably,
because that game's fucking great. I'm still of that opinion that if they want to do that for the next Sonic game, I'd play a Sonic mod of Mario Galaxy.
That'd be pretty damn cool.
But yeah. I was surprised more people weren't angry about that review. I was a little worried that I was going to get some blowback, but everyone was basically like, sad face, Sonic. Do you follow Andrew Dickman on Twitter? He was furious.
Do I follow Andrew Dickman? I don't think
for listeners, he'd be the artist for Channel Awesome. He did like the pictures we use.
He's also the host of our new show on Blistered Thumbs, E-Heroes.
Indeed he is. But he was playing Sonic Lost World. I think he streamed some of it. And I retweeted one of the things. He hated it more than I did. It was like all caps, like this is the worst fucking game. So it's nice to know that I'm not alone there.
No.
It got pretty middling reviews, 5, 6s, 7s maybe.
Which, as we know, in the games journalism industry, means death.
Yeah, a 5 or a 6 for most sites is like a 2 or a 3 on the BT scale, so maybe I was even generous.
All right, Austin, what's the last turd they got shat out into your hands this week, then?
This is probably the best game I played of the 3. I think you might actually have some input, because I know this is a series you've played. I reviewed Battlefield 4.
Ah, yeah, Battlefield.
The problem is, I reviewed it on PlayStation 3. Well, that's one of the main problems. I reviewed it on PlayStation 3, where it is pretty inferior in every meaningful way. The textures, the pop-in, loading times, the online, the sizes of the matches, players and stuff. Just a compromised experience. And I think someone from DICE even said they made each version specifically for that. Like they could have made one baseline experience based on the lowest capabilities of the systems, but they didn't. Like the PC version is just better in every way, and they know it, and they want everyone to know it. So if you're going to play it at all, play it on PC or next gen. I said avoid it for my review on the PlayStation 3. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer, as most people know, that's the main draw, and it's good enough that on a PC it would be worth it. But that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fucking single-player campaign.
All right.
Holy shit, Johnny.
How's my boy Omar?
I didn't even know that the guy in the game was the fucking guy. I thought of him as Chalky from Boardwalk Empire.
Okay, all right.
When the credits rolled, I was like, it was fucking Chalky the whole time.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that at first.
I called it right from the first trailer that they released that had that Bonnie Tyler song and the car underwater. I'm like, holy shit, that's Omar.
Listeners may know that I actually got HBO access a little bit ago. I was watching Game of Thrones. Now I'm watching Boardwalk Empire, and The Wire is next. So I understand.
I mean, Boardwalk Empire is so good.
I understand your reference, but I have actually not watched The Wire yet. That's the next one I have on my docket. Yeah, I'm like 2 seasons into Boardwalk Empire.
Go for it. I do maintain that The Wire may be some of the best television ever made.
That's what I've heard. But yeah, to me, he was Chalky, and I was like, not even Chalky could save this? Oh, fuck. It was irredeemable.
Oh, really? It's that bad?
I said this on Twitter. I think I might owe Medal of Honor Door Kicker an apology.
Wow.
Because at least Warfighter had an idea of what it wanted to do.
Yeah, it was a fighter of war.
It wanted to take real-world missions and combine that with, like, the story of people whose, like, husbands go to war. And, like, it failed miserably to get any of those ideas across. But it tried. Battlefield 4's campaign, if they turned to the camera and winked, like, 2 or 3 times, it would be, like, an airplane-style fucking parody of the military shooter genre.
Really?
It is fucking terrible.
Is it just, like, outlandish? Or
no, it's just so fucking
derivative.
It's so predictable, so cliche, so cynical. It goes through the motions. It steals liberally from, like, it beat for beat. Like the tanker sequence from Uncharted 3, beat for beat the prison break from Black Ops, beat for beat, like every set piece from every other shooter. Like, the dialogue is laughable. Like, someone brought up a really good one in the comments where some character's like, why should I trust you? And the other character's like, the bad guy killed my family. And he's like, good enough for me. Like, just straight face. The line I brought up in my review, which stuck out to me, was there's a character who dies like halfway through, and then he shows up later, and they're like, how'd you get here? And he's like, things were fucked. I unfucked them. And then no one brings it up ever again.
That's seriously, that's the line?
Yeah.
Things were fucked. I unfucked them.
But yeah. I assume they're gonna try to sell that shit to us as a DLC to see what really happened. That's the only way I can think to justify that plot point.
Why would they even bother selling single-player DLC to Battlefield?
I don't know. What could be the fucking justification for that?
I mean, I could understand it if it was called Battlefield 4 DLC pissing dollars into the wind.
It's so bad, Johnny. Everything about it is so fucking bad. There's like several times where people fall like 30 stories and are fine. Just fine. You're just like, oh man, that's smart.
I fell on my keys.
There's one. This is actually in the gameplay debut I think you watched, where the person gets their leg cut off.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this big dramatic moment. It's like, you gotta do it. You gotta save the, blah blah blah. They're coming. Hurry up! And you just push the button, and the camera looks away. There's just no impact. Just no meaning at all to any of that.
Yeah.
So going through the motions, it's so forced. It's also another thing they showed in the same video is where you're in the car under the water, and they hand you a gun. It's like, you gotta do it. Shoot the window. Save yourself. And just to see what happened, because people are always on and on about choice in games, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't shoot the window, and then it just cuts to black, and you hear a gunshot, and the window breaks anyway.
Yeah.
Like people gave David Cage shit and talk about how none of the choices in that game mean anything. But I played through it multiple times, and you decide who lives and dies.
Yeah.
In Beyond Two Souls. Fuck that. Battlefield is where people should be directing their anger. That's some bullshit. Especially the whole reason you're trapped in a car underwater is because a helicopter forces that on you. And I said this in my review. There's the way you take down the helicopter is with a gun that I had during the mission, and I shot the helicopter multiple times, but it's just magically invincible.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about gluttonarrative dissonance, right? Like the separation of gameplay.
I know that you do, and sometimes so do I. I don't know about everyone, but whatever.
And story, right? And it's like this big important thing, but they only apply it to games that try really hard, like BioShock and stuff, where they're doing their best.
Yeah.
And then there's games like Battlefield, where they just clearly don't give a shit, and we all give it a free pass. We're like, why?
Oh, I remember Crysis 2, when I played Crysis 2, they have all these times where it's like, you have to do this now or else, and I'm like, what if I don't? And then they just make the decision for you. That's it, like if you're like, no, I don't have to shoot the guy, I'm not going to shoot the guy. Suddenly the gun goes off in your hands, and there's a bullet in the back of the guy's brain, and it's like, why did you even bother? Why would you even bother? Why would you you better shoot now or else we'll do it and feel really bad about it.
Yeah. It's like someone explained the concept of making choices in a video game to the developers, but they didn't quite grasp it.
Yeah.
Especially the ending of Battlefield 4 is particularly egregious. There's a decision you're supposed to make, and I obviously can't explain it without spoiling it, but it's the most infuriating thing I've ever seen. It's like, it makes every other choice-based game seem so much better in retrospect.
Well, I need to hear about it now.
Do you?
Yes.
I don't know if I want to spoil the tour de force that is Battlefield 4's single-player campaign.
Well, obviously, it is based on the works of William Beckett, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. I think it's based on the insane scribblings of Bill O'Reilly or something. The Chinese are out to get us. Now the Russians are out to get us. All they're working together.
What the fuck is that guy's name? No, there's a particular conspiracy theorist that I'm thinking of that oh god, I don't remember his name. Give me a second. Alex Jones. That's him, Alex Jones. Yeah. Maybe based on the insane ramblings of Alex Jones. That's really funny. I searched for Alex Jones on YouTube, and the first thing at the top is Battlefield 4 TV trailer. Although it does say ads, I just find that a little too coincidental.
Speaking of Battlefield, I'm playing Call of Duty Call of Duty Ghosts for review.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how that stacks up, because I've always found Call of Duty's campaigns to be better than Battlefield's, and the multiplayer to be inversely thus.
Yep.
So I don't have like any particular allegiance to either, but I feel like if there was going to be a year where Call of Duty was better in both categories, this might be it.
Conceivably.
Just
do you have any? There's a lot of distaste that I can sense coming from you right now.
Why did they even try? Just release Battlefield as a multiplayer-only thing. That's all that matters.
Because they feel like they need to be Call of Duty. And even though Call of Duty is, like, particularly famous for its online, it's almost just as famous for its ridiculously over-the-top military, like, epic set-piece shows.
Yeah, but at least they actually do it well sometimes. Like, I think Black Ops is actually, like, a legitimately good game. Like, the story is, like, seriously pretty good, and, like, not being ironic in any way. And Black Ops 2 is also, like, fairly decent. So, I mean, they have actual justification to continue spending money on that. Like, Battlefield, not so much. Bad Company, now there's a different story entirely. The Bad Company campaigns are actually pretty sweet.
Yeah, they've got some character.
I put so much time into Bad Company 2's multiplayer. I want to play Bad Company.
I did too, actually. I think that's probably why I just like Battlefield 4, not even on my radar. Like, not even, like, I don't care.
It's only been, like, what, like a year or two since Battlefield 3? How long?
I think it's been 2 years. I think 2 years ago we had Battlefield 3. Because last year we had Medal of Honor, didn't we?
Yeah. And how much time was it between Battlefield 2 and 3?
Well, 2 and 3 was a long time. That was like 5 years, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. It feels too soon. There's not enough improvements.
Battlefield 2. According to Wikipedia, 2005. Yeah, so like 5 or 6 years it would have been.
Yeah. I can't recommend it much. It doesn't even look that good. Like, when Battlefield 3 came out, I was, like, blown away by how good it looked on consoles. And 4 just, Yeah. I've played The Last of Us. I'm just not impressed.
Yeah. I imagine it's a little different on a high-end PC, or it'll look different on, like, a PS4 or an Xbox.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. I said as much in my write-up. I was like, I can only talk about what I played. But I'm sure if you have a monster rig that it was actually designed to be played on, it's a different story. But
it's not enough to make me want to play it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Battlefield 3 servers are still full.
Probably. Although we'll see how quickly Electronic Arts decides to shut them down.
That would be interesting.
Oh, well, they love doing that.
Yeah. Well, as long as you can financially justify keeping them open, I guess.
You mean keeping servers open for a game that nobody's buying anymore? Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how some of that famous Electronic Arts customer service comes in.
What else was that? There was another game I was going to play. I can't remember what it was. This has not been a good week for me.
You sound like you're in a haze. Like, you honestly sound like there's a cloud of horrible game blocking, like, every conceivable way into your brain. Where it's like sensory input happens, and you're like, Battlefield, Final Fantasy 13 too.
It feels like that sometimes. I don't think there's like anything else I'm looking forward to this year that much. Kind of.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a pretty slim year for the rest of the year, actually.
The next gen stuff is the big focus, and launch games are pretty notoriously mediocre.
We'll see how. I mean, there's a lot of faith being jammed on Titanfall.
That's not until next year, though.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, I thought it was launching.
Nope, March. But that's actually perfect that you thought that, because that's the way they're selling it. They've been super unclear, I think, on purpose to make people think it's going to come out earlier than it is. It's not ready, and it might even get pushed back more for all we know. But they're acting like it's a launch because they want you to buy an Xbox One.
Well, there you go. That's if I weren't already a PC gamer, I would be, I think, exemplified of the Xbox guitar solo paint trumpet regular customer. Be like, that Titanfall looks good. I better get one at launch.
I guess I'm looking forward to the next Zelda, and Gran Turismo comes out in December. Maybe Loco Cycle and Resogun. Those are indie games, but that's basically it. I don't know.
Assassin's Creed 4, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of hitting the end of my Assassin's Creed love. I'm reaching the end of it. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are kind of saturated with it. It's not that it's taken any kind of massive dip in quality, but there's only so many times you can kind of go through the same rigmarole.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And I'm failing to see the relevance in 4 more than any other one.
Well, especially because they pretty explicitly aren't too interested in the meta plot for this one.
Yeah.
This is basically just Pirates the Adventure.
Yeah, more or less.
So.
And then, yeah, everything else, I'm just kind of like, waiting until next year. South Park Stick of Truth got pushed back again.
Yep.
Because it was going to be December, wasn't it? But now it's back in, it's moved back to March, I think.
I think so.
I'm still looking forward to Soul Suspect. Murdered Soul Suspect.
The Witcher.
Of course, The Witcher. The new Thief game I'm a little curious about. I'm not sold on yet.
I think it's unfortunate that it's coming out after Dishonored. I think it would have been more meaningful last year, perhaps.
Yeah, most likely.
Metal Gear comes out next year, so
yep.
There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out next year, but I think this year is basically done as far as like games that will be in the running for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Top 10 list material. Now it's just kind of technological curiosities.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a Word doc somewhere of like the Game of the Year contenders. I'm up to like 15. It's going to be interesting paring that down. We had a good crop of stuff early in the year. Usually it's all kind of backed towards the end, towards holiday season.
It was pretty reverse this year.
Yeah.
We had a strong start.
It's because the new consoles and stuff pushed everything either forward or back a little.
Yeah.
No one wants to compete.
Yeah, true.
So I guess that's the show for the week, unless you want to hear me bitch about Battlefield some more.
No, I think you made your case pretty clean. Suck it up.
I'm going to play some more Pokemon.
That sounds like it would be good for you.
It would. I fucking ruined Robert's shit earlier.
Is that so?
So bad. Oh my god, it was the best. I don't think he didn't touch a single one of my Pokemon. I just ran roughshod through his team. It was the best. To be clear, this is Robert G., the one who gave Killer is Dead a 1, if anyone wants other reasons to be, down on him. Yeah, but no one at BT or Tig has beaten me yet.
If I had a Pokemon team, Austin, I would lay myself prostrate before your feet. But as it stands right now, instead, you're just chalking Jumbledygook.
Jumbledygook. All right. So Call of Duty. Oh, I think I'm gonna play Sly Cooper 4 this week. I think those are the 2 games that I'll talk about next week. So
I'm gonna test out my new Deadly Premonition high res patch.
do it.
I will, and maybe my car won't freeze the game anymore.
All right, that's me. Done. Fuck it.